the great hierarchy of South African car popularity, at the top you have the Volkswagen Polo, followed in no particular order by the BMW 3 Series, many SUVs, luxury sedans, trendy city runabouts, 4x4s, high-performance sports cars, and trailing all of that lot by some distance is station wagons. Like this Mercedes-Benz C-Class estate. We've said many times on RPM that we're at a loss to explain why South Africans would buy an SUV over a station wagon, especially in those cases where going off-road will never come into the equation. But something tells me that we as a nation are warming to the idea of driving cars that are like sedans, only slightly bigger, as opposed to cars that are like 4x4s, only less capable. That feeling started a few years ago when Audi was seriously considering withdrawing the Avant, and then they didn't. Instead, they added an all-road version and then an RS4 version, none of which would have happened if they didn't think they could sell them. Sure, they might not be selling in stellar numbers, but maybe their numbers are good enough to make Mercedes-Benz want to join the fight. And while it may offer the same sort of practicality and load-carrying ability as an Audi A4 Avant, Mercedes have decided that their estate will cater to a much more sensible audience. You see, if you want an A4 Avant, you can only buy an S4 or RS4 version. The most sane one of the lot is the all-road, which serves a slightly different market and is 50 grand more than the cheapest C-Class estate. What you get with Mercedes-Benz sensible option isn't a whole bunch of plastic add-ons or flared wheel arches. You don't even get a supercharged motor. Instead, it's a continuation of the C-Class with its stylish presence and understated elegance. In fact, there is some debate at RPM HQ about which C-Class version is the better looking. I'd have a hard time coming to a definitive conclusion in favor of one over the other, but I will say that the enlarged rear end of the estate has done nothing to detract from the family's attractive looks. It really is a well-proportioned, well-finished thing that doesn't for one moment look like a frumpy momsmobile in tracksuit pants. It is simply gorgeous. You also get the same superb C-Class interior. From the driver's seat, there's nothing that screams, "This car is about practicality." The C-Class genes means it's finished off with an attention to detail that puts it a step ahead of anything else at the price. From the standard automated tailgate to the sculpted dashboard, this car's got style and ease of use wrapped up into one package. Being a load runner, there is decent space, and loading is helped by that electric tailgate and a nifty load cover, albeit one that has a design copied from Audi. Fold down the rear seats and you end up with a load compartment that's a full 1,510 litres, or about 50% more than a Land Rover Defender. Rear seats are generous enough and have their own climate control. The privacy glass is a 6,000 rand option. So far, the C-Class estate is proving itself to be a very strong contender, but I've driven a few Mercs in the not-too-distant past that have been let down by some mechanical bits. Specifically, the diesel engine like this car's got. The last few I've driven have been quite noisy, but this one, with its 150 kilowatts and 500 newton meters, gets along pleasantly quietly. In fact, if anything, it sounds a little artificial, like they're pumping in diesel noise through the speakers, which they aren't, because that would be idiotic. Still, I'd have that idiocy over an actual rattling diesel any day. The 2.1 doesn't have the typical diesel acceleration characteristic that you might be used to, all shove up to 3,500 RPM and then nothing but noise. Instead, this one has a steady, if a little underwhelming, get up and go that pushes all the way through the revs. Standard across the C-Class estate range is agility control, but as an option on our test car, we've got Airmatic that continuously adjusts the dampers. It also lets you set up various parameters for the steering and the transmission. And although it is a very nice toy to have, I do think this car would be just as good without it. For starters, the steering never feels like anything but artificial, and given the tame nature of the engine and the fact that this isn't an Audi RS4 competitor, the need for a stiffer ride setup probably won't ever be necessary. Still, it does try and engage you a little bit with the paddle shift 7G Tronic gearbox and a Sports Plus mode. Maybe things will get a little bit more exciting if and when Mercedes-Benz release a C63 version. If you're in the market for an estate car that isn't about power or city living with some mild off-road pretensions, then you really only have one choice. But even if there were other options, you'd still only really have one choice. The competition would have a tough time keeping up with a C-Class estate because it does everything an estate car should do, just with a measure of style and comfort. The 2.1 turbo diesel isn't the most energizing thing ever fitted to a car, but it has a steady power delivery and a smooth 7-speed auto gearbox. It's not the most engaging drive in its class, but then again, it's designed to suit a more practical role, which it does very well while simultaneously managing to throw real style into the mix.